Started and we could just chit chat.
It's all you, Rod. Thank you. Look forward to it.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. And I am excited because this is one of my favorite topics. Many of you know, and maybe you don't. I spent several years in high-end auto sales, and it follow up is everything. And in my retail businesses, and in my wholesale businesses, and in my network marketing business, follow up is where I made my money. Follow up was everything. And follow up is about timing. And so we're going to dive into several different things here tonight, but follow up is it. Follow up is where the gold is. And if you get good at the follow up, it's going to pay dividends in the near future, the medium, and long term. And we'll talk about all of those things. So uh, follow up is where the fortune is. So the first thing I want to talk about, has anyone here, and if you haven't, it's kind of a brutal movie. It's called Glengarry Glen Ross. Anybody? It's about sales, real estate mostly, but they're all into the same leads, and they're all old leads, and they're following up on these leads because it's all they have. They don't have fresh leads. They're not getting fresh leads. They're just getting the leads the company's given them, and it's the same stuff they've been giving everyone. It's terrible, but it forces these guys to follow up, and follow up can be like in Glengarry Glen Ross, brutal. It can destroy your morale. It can destroy, how many no's can you take? And especially if you're getting no from the same person over and over. And that you have to find a way to bridge that. And with follow up, there are several ways of doing it. So I'm going to give you some practical tips, and I'm going to tell you a couple of stories too that might make this a little bit more practical. So we'll start with the story first. I interviewed for a job, Jim, you'll like this being where we're from. Anyone out there listening from Colorado, which is the number one selling Subaru state in the United States. And there was a Subaru dealership, and it had gone out of business, and another dealer picked up the franchise. And a manager came in who had sold Subarus before, and he was looking for a new sales team. And the first question he asked me was, do you believe in the be back bus? And I don't know if this is something that's just in the car business. The be back bus is when you talk to somebody, somebody comes into a dealership or drives onto a lot, and you talk to them, and they say, oh, it sounds great. I like what you've got. That car might just work for me. I'll get my wife here. And do you have a business card? And when they ask for your business card, that's usually the kiss off letter, right? It's like, okay, now I can get that guy off my hands. So, and you don't want to they never want to give their name, their phone number, and all that stuff for follow up. So this gentleman, the manager, asked, do you believe in the be back bus? And if you let somebody leave the lot, you're basically putting them on the bus. You're waving bye to them as you put them on the bus. And the thing in the car business is they say the bus never comes back. Well, I believed in the be back bus. I believed that if I established rapport with a client, a complete stranger, if I could develop rapport, and I could either give them my card and have them call me if and when they were really ready, or if they really wanted, if they were closer than that, they would give me their information, and then I would follow up. But I did a great job of building rapport, and then I did a great job at being able to mine their data. What's your phone number? What's the best time to call you? Do you prefer a text? Would you rather have an email? I asked them. I don't want to bother you, so you tell me what's the best way to contact you. And if they gave me that information, then it became follow up. And you don't have to be in car sales. You could be in any sort of sales. Follow up is necessary, and getting good at it can make you a lot of money. So first and foremost, and Rachel's going to love this, set up a follow up schedule. And there are tons of scheduling tools. I have seen everything. I grew up in the day where everyone had a Franklin day planner. I mean, that was it. You went out and you bought the best planner that was out there. That was before we had access to all this technology. So use the technology that's out there, but use what you're comfortable with. Use what you're going to use. I don't care if it's just your cell phone and you're setting it, you know, that follow-up appointment with that person. The minute you get off the phone with them, you can set it up. Do you want me to call you next week? Do you prefer morning or afternoon? You know, is after 3 better, or would you like me to call you in, you know, at 3:15? You know, just find ways to get that information, put your follow-up in immediately, and don't lose the leads. I had a gentleman that I worked with, and it was pretty, he was in car sales a lot longer than I ever was, but he was a professional and he had a coded system. He literally did everything on index cards. And anyone could go to his desk. It frustrated people because the managers would go to his desk and they'd try and find, you know, well, I know he was talking to someone, you know, a couple of days ago that was looking at this particular vehicle or whatever. And they would go to his desk and try and look through his files and they couldn't find anything. He had color codes, he had all kinds of stuff, but he protected, like just like it was a nest, right? Of golden eggs, and he protected it like no one's going to touch my stuff. And he literally had this system that nobody could crack. It'd probably take a Navajo code breaker to go in there, figure that one out. But it was his own follow-up system. Eventually, the entire industry has switched to CRM tools. And there are some great ones out there, and CRM tools are great. Anybody who's a business owner, and those customers belong to you. That's the first thing I'm going to say. The customer belongs to the business, not to the salesperson. That being said, a good salesperson will convert that customer to a lifelong following. And I had several that would go from, you know, I upscaled 3 different times in cars, and I had people that followed me every step of the way. They would, brand loyalty meant nothing. They were loyal to me. And it was amazing how many, just with follow-ups, you could do, and how many more cars. I would turn one car sale into, and keep in mind, people, I said, well, why don't you get into real estate? Bigger commissions in real estate. Well, yeah, but how often do people buy homes? Every 15 years? People buy cars on average every 3 to 5. So I'm looking at turning this over. And I would have some people, if I sold someone, he said, my wife's all still going to be looking for a car. I've got a teenager who's going to be driving soon, right? I've got 3 teenagers. There are always people. So following up is critical. So set up the follow-up schedule. That's number 1. Anyone taking notes? Set up a follow-up schedule and make sure you do the follow-up. Number 2 is personalize your communication when you follow up. Always ask first, what's your preferred method of follow-up? What's the best way to reach you so you're not bothering somebody? You don't want to ring their cell phone if they're in the middle of a staff meeting that they have every Friday at 10, and that's when you decide to call them for your follow-up. Now, they, number 1, should have their phone off, but sometimes they forget. You don't want to be the one, right? That's a nuisance. So always ask, what's the best way to follow up with you? And then use that method and stick with that method. Use multiple communication channels. So if they give you more information, and Mr. Spilson, I know you've done this, you know, what's the best way? Is it phone calls? Is it emails? You know, shall I DM them on social media? Man, once you get a hook in, it's wide open, and you should use all of it, but use it with discretion. Okay, this is that iron fist with velvet gloves. You don't want to be a nuisance. And I'm going to be talking about that over and over here. My whole thing, and this is the one thing, if you're going to write anything down, this is it. Be persistent without being a pest. And every client will be different with the level of persistence that's necessary. But it's up to you. This takes some of that emotional intelligence, you know, some of that, you get good at understanding where people are. And I always looked at it as a funnel. There's a buying funnel for people. Whatever, I don't care if it's alcohol sales or if it's media sales, there's always this thing where they're gathering information. There's an information gathering stage. And they may just be skimming the surface. They may be there by accident. And then they they get interested and they start dropping down into the funnel. And then all of a sudden you get them really excited. They try a Kush Cube. They try something of what you have. I had somebody gift me a great bottle of wine. It's like, oh man, where can I get that stuff locally now, right? So once they turn into somebody that is going to be a buyer, that process may take 3 years. It may take 3 months. It may take 3 hours. But you have to work on your savvy, your business savvy and your intellectual savvy to figure out where that is. So personalize those communications and do it professionally. I never use slang. I didn't ever abbreviate in text messages. I know some people, I'm not maybe cool, but I always maintain professional communications in all of it. And if you're not a good speller, you're not real good with grammar, I don't know how you cannot be anymore. Everything is autocorrect, but make sure. And I catch myself with this sometimes too. I'll send a text out and it's like, oh crap. And now I got to send just to let them know I did reread my textbook after I sent it. Keep it professional and keep it on that level. So personalize your communications, use multiple communication channels. And here's number 4, and this is the biggest one: provide value in every interaction. If you're calling somebody back, you better have something new to tell them. There better be another reason to engage, unless they've just asked you to call them back. If you're just calling and calling and calling, if it's a cold call, a warm call, you have to provide value in every interaction. And that could be something as simple as, hey, I'm glad I connected with you again. We have a special going on. I wanted you to hear about it. I have an opening. I have another opening that you might work for your schedule or someone on your team. I just wanted to let you know this is exciting. I just got promoted. I just won an award. Our company just brought in a new product line. Whatever it is, you've got to be bringing new value. So don't just call to call. The phone will keep ringing. Don't email to email, and it's just going to end up in the junk folder, and then they're going to block you. Number 5, stay informed. Keep yourself updated. And this kind of goes in with that providing value. Keep up on industry trends, news, know what your clients, I've talked about Lord before. You should know what your clients, where they're from, their location, okay, where they're from, where they live, what their occupation is, what their prior occupation was. Several people have switched careers 4 or 5, 6 times, like me. They've done lots of different things. So know what their backgrounds are. Know what they do for recreation. Okay, those are the things that you're going to be up on, and know what they want to do. What is their dream? Okay, that's the Lord technique. But once you have all those things, you can glean information. You say, hey, I just saw a newspaper article. I don't know if you'd seen this yet. You can DM them. You can attach it, share it, send them an email with a link. Say, I don't know if you saw this in the industry. I know you're interested in real estate. Check this out. But not everything is about sales. It's about contact. It's about building value, and information has value. So remember that information has value, and make it valuable. That information, make that contact valuable to the client. Number 6, be consistent but respectful. Okay, it's okay to ask for the sale. The biggest thing I've ever seen in my entire career and everything, people all excited and they're showing people what they have. It's the show and tell. But if you don't have the call to action at the end, it's just a bunch of razzmatazz, right? It's a Vegas show. You've got to have a call to action. You've got to be able to ask for a sale. And if they say, no, not right now, well, what's holding you back? If it's a timing issue, I understand. I don't want to keep bothering you. Do you want me to touch base in another month, 2 months, 3 months? I'll call you back next year if that's what you want. But believe me, next year, he's going to get a call back, right? So it really is about that, being consistent and being respectful. Always express gratitude. Thank you for taking the call. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. Always express gratitude. And you don't have to be ooey gushy about that stuff, but just make sure you're making it a point. Time is valuable, and let people know. If they've read your email and responded, thank them. That's the other thing. Keep your emails short, to the point. If they want more information, have them ask for it, because you're being respectful that way. That's another way of expressing your gratitude for them too. Don't waste their time. 9, ask for feedback. I used to do this a lot. I'd ask people that say, I don't think we're gonna do it. I really like the car. I like everything about it. I really like this product. I like everything about it. I'm just not ready to place, a 4-case order for that yet. Ask, what's holding you back? I need some feedback. Is it something that I did, something I said? Is it something that we failed to deliver? I just, help me be better. Help me be a better supplier of the goods or services for you. People will give you that feedback. You have to ask for it, but they'll give it to you. So make sure you're doing that. CRM tools, customer retention management. So if you do have a sales team, or even if you're building your own sales, customer retention management tools will actually populate and schedule everything for you. The neat thing with those is, they go into elaborate detail, and find the one that's going to work best for your business. But CRM tools will force you to get the job done. They won't force you to get it done well. That's up to you, and constantly getting better. But CRM tools, there's a plethora of them out there. Do your research, especially if you're buying something for a large company. If you're in charge of that, make sure you're doing it. Number 10, be patient. Building relationships takes time. Building that stock takes a lot of time. And if you're in a hurry, you're going to blow out. And in the course of every one of my careers, I saw people come and go. I saw people who could come in, and they could be $250,000 a year salespeople that couldn't make 40 grand a year because they just weren't patient. And if you're impatient, your customers are going to know. It's the first thing they're gonna see, that you need it, you want it right now, you want some sort of a sale. So building your patience up is critical, and being willing to follow up is going to help you build your patience. 11, create a newsletter or updates. Get known for something in your industry, right? If you're cleaning swimming pools, having a newsletter out there, some of the latest chemicals, some of the latest studies, here's what we're looking at on the horizon, or your own stuff. You'll never guess what I found in someone's pool last week, right? Come up with some anecdotes that are specific to your industry and put them out on a regular basis. I used to do a quarterly newsletter. Some people did monthly newsletters. I thought it was too much. I would do a quarterly update, and I not only did industry stuff, but I did personal stuff. This is what's going on in my life. I wanted people to know that I was a real person. I wasn't just a business. I wasn't just a company. I'm a real person on the other end of this, just like they are. And that's part of that building your rapport, but it goes 2 ways. You're not just trying to build a rapport with them. You want them to build rapport with you as well. They should be genuinely interested in you if you're genuinely interested in your customer. So make sure they know you're a real person. And newsletters, updates are a way to do that. And then 12 kind of goes along with that, is celebrate your milestones, and celebrate them with your customers. It's okay to brag on yourself as long as you're not being obnoxious, right? It's okay to let people know they're dealing with a professional. Rachel, I love this about what you do. You are always putting stuff out there. My business did this. We got another award. It's like, I get to tell people, she's a partner in my business. Look at this lady go. She's on fire. Look at this. She's a part of this team. It's good to do that, and it makes you feel good. But your customers need to know where you stand in that too. You're not just they could buy your product from, unless you're a specialty artist, I know, Chris, but they could get your product somewhere else or something similar from someone else. Where's the connection that's going to get them to do it from you? Part of it's going to be in your follow-up. That connection is all about your follow-up and how you do it and how often you do it. So remember, be genuine. Focus on the goal. What is this? What is the end goal here? And that's to build a long-term relationship and a lifelong customer. Okay. Be respectful of people's times and their preferences, how they want to be dealt with and contacted, and adjust your approach. Always be adjusting your approach for different audiences, for different people, for different customers, and never, ever forget to ask for the referral. Always ask for referrals. After you've closed a sale, after someone has been using your product or your service, always be asking for the referral or recommendations, or maybe just, can you give me a Yelp review? Whatever it is, make sure you're asking them for something too. People want to give, and you have to give them an opportunity. That's part of your follow-up. Give them an opportunity to give back to you. And if you're not asking for it, sometimes they may feel nervous or like they shouldn't, be offering their opinion. So those are just some of my highlights there. But follow up is good, not just for business. It's good on your personal life. Follow up with the people that are important to you, not just a Christmas card. I'm terrible with that. I vow every year I'm going to get better. It's good for business now. It's good for future business. And you don't have to use a Rolodex anymore. You don't have to use, index cards or a Franklin planner. You've got so many tools available to you. If you're not using them yet, I suggest you start. And if you haven't, start one and start using it, because your business is going to grow. And at some point, you're going to outgrow your current method of follow-up. So have that be part of your plan. Plan ahead for your future growth. How are you going to follow up with all those clients when you get them? And when you get more, are you going to be able to keep up with that flow with the system you have? And if you can, that's great. But our goal here is to take you next level, not same level, next level. So to level up, be thinking up. How can you do it? How can you do it better? And there's always something to learn. Again, don't assume, this is the last thing I have here, is don't assume that people get your message, or that they got your message, that they got your text, that they read your text, that they read your email. Too many times, people will blow it off and say, oh, they're obviously not interested. I've emailed them twice, texted them once. Maybe they lost their phone for 2 days. Maybe we don't know what happened. They were on a rafting trip, it fell in the water, and they lost the email content. Who knows? Maybe it got put in a spam folder. Don't assume that everyone's getting all your messages. And it's okay to say, you know what? I've had a rash of, texts not go through. I don't know. Did you get my last text? Things happen. So don't assume when you're doing follow-up that everyone's getting all the things that you're doing. That's why the multiple prong approach works also. So that's kind of all I have. To me, sales was fun. When you can start mastering some of these things and taking it next level, you're going to have a sense of accomplishment, and you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel better about your business, and you're going to feel better about your future in your business. And I'm going to open it up first to Jim and Rachel. I know that you guys have plenty of experience in the follow-up realm, and then we'll take any questions that anybody has right after.
Thanks, Rod. Good topic. Yeah, I made some notes just so that I could bring them up. The first one is, you said be persistent without being a pest. I would suggest if you have a sales pitch, that you give that pitch to friends and family and ask them for honest feedback. Because I really believe, and no offense to car salespeople, Rod, but I really believe that those pests in the sales industry don't realize they're pests. They think that they're following the rule book, that they've read and learned and training to ask and do all these things. But the reality is, the way that they go about it, oftentimes they come off as a pest. And I think the only way to truly understand what the customer's seeing is to pitch your friends and family, get honest feedback, and see if you're getting results as you transition your pitch to a way that you're not being a pest. Because I really don't think that pests understand that they're being a pest. So that's first. The second thing is ask for the sale. so many people fall short of asking for the sale. Chris, I see your stuff all the time. I'm not in tune to what maybe you're writing, but don't be afraid to ask for the sale. Like, hey, buy this piece. I've got 10. They're going to go fast or whatever it is, but ask for the sale and have the confidence in your product and what you're doing, that there's value in it. And don't be afraid to throw it out there. I'm collaborating on a project right now with Rachel and Samantha. It's a marketing project. And, we were deliberating about the value of the work that we're doing. And I came up with a number, and Samantha's like, that seems kind of high. You think they'll go for it? And I built it off of some research from prior experiences. And I was like, well, what do we got to lose? Let's throw it out there. And they said yes, because we asked. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not delivering on the value proposition, but it's equal value for value. But if we were afraid to ask for the number, we wouldn't have got it. We would have settled for less before we even asked. So don't be afraid to ask. It might just surprise you. I was actually talking about the same thing with a client earlier today. When I coach a company, my rates for those services are all pretty decent sized numbers. And I remember David Meltzer, when I was working with him as my coach 5-6 years ago, he's like, Jim, don't be afraid to ask for the bigger number. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, try it. Try it. You're worth it. And the first client I asked for the bigger number, they said yes. And I literally, when I hung up, like, I can't believe it. I got to call Dave and thank him. So it's really important to understand your value, ask for the sale, and don't be afraid to. And that kind of goes along with my last note and that was just knowing your value, understanding your products and your services. And if they're personal services, know the value that you're bringing to the table. And if it's a product, understand that value, do your research, do a deep dive so that when you're in front of your customer or potential client, that you can explain to them why you're asking and what they're going to get. And maybe even what they get differently from you versus somebody else. So good topic. I'm going to keep it brief on my side, Rod. Thank you. Rachel, I'll turn off the mute or turn your mute off.
Unmute. All right. Oh, hi guys. So I was flipping through TikTok today because I like to do that. When I first get up in the morning sometimes to before I work out, wake my brain up. And there was the movie clip from The Wolf of Wall Street that I wanted to talk about, where Leonardo DiCaprio character goes and sits down where he just starts selling the penny stocks. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll, give you 50% of whatever you sell. And he's like, seriously, if I sell $10,000 of this crap, you'll give me half? And they're like, yeah. And so he did it, right? And it was a great scene from that movie. And I like the topic tonight. I read his book, The Way of the Wolf. It was really, really good. Following that, I actually implemented some of that into Sunday Brunch, and I actually did a Mary Kay coaching session to some of the people that work there, trying to help them with their sales approach too. It's the best sales book that I've ever read. I agree that the follow-up is important. Valuable follow-up is important. That's something that I really try to pride myself on. I never like to harass people to the point of annoyance. I'd rather befriend them and not even ask about the project. I'd rather find something else to connect on, because if I really like them and I really like what they're doing, it doesn't even matter if and when we ever get hired. It's just more about building that relationship, and that's what's the primary importance to me. And I think that that's just better business for all of us involved. So I'll tell one other story. Before the holidays, I had gone to this event. It was there's this, I don't know if you guys have this here, but imagine for automotive, you've got an auto mall and you've got all the different retailers together. So around here, we have places with home furnishings where people can go and you can go to all the different stores. And there was this event before Christmas with Lux Magazine, and it had all these different interiors and designers and architects and people in the industry. And I had met a couple like potential clients that I thought were really fantastic. And I followed up with them. And then it was the holidays, and I think things got lost in the shuffle. And I was like, all right, I'll just like wait till I see them at another event. So I get a call on Friday afternoon, like sitting at the car wash at like 4 or 5 o'clock, like I'm done for the day. And it's one of the people that I met. And, we're like chatting, and I'm just like getting to know him. And he was like, yeah, so I really like, I want a proposal and I want all this stuff. And da 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 da. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I thought we were just gonna be friends. So like sometimes like you don't even have to ask for the sale, like the sale finds you. That doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's kind of nice because he was like, well, I talked to so and so and your reputation's really good and I like the work you did for them. So, good work, brings more good work. So I thought that was a nice new business story to share. But anyways, great topic tonight, Rod. I love the way you handled it. I thought that those were all really good points and, you know, nicely done. I know, you know, we're a small group tonight, but we're mighty. People could watch this later.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Rachel. Jim, I wanted to comment too, when you were talking about car salesmen, that most car salesmen might not even know that they're being pests. I think that they do. My experience, and car dealers go to what are called 20 groups, right? We have these coaching groups like we're in here. Auto dealers have their own, and they're called 20 groups. And so what they do is they get together, auto dealers, the owners and the principals, the finance managers and that stuff. They get together and they brainstorm what they've been doing in their businesses, and then they share that information, and they may or may not learn from it. Well, what I've seen in the car industry is they've been recycling the same information for the last 50 years. And so they're telling their salespeople that they have to go out, they have to pester these people. They either, you call them till they buy or they die, right? That's what you do. And that's not the way I worked. It's never the way I worked. And so I built a sales team of 7 people that did it a different way. We didn't do it the way the industry has been doing it for the last 50 years. We did it our way. And then we found this gentleman named Grant Cardone who validated what we were doing. And so the dealer bought into Grant Cardone's training program, and then all of a sudden they saw what we were doing. They saw the success. They saw that there was a different way of doing it, even though they've been trained. They've gone to the auto colleges. They literally have colleges for auto dealers. And there's a different way of doing business. And there's a right way of doing it and a wrong way of doing it. So sometimes it takes a while for an industry to make that shift, but you can personally make the shift before the industry does. And that's, I think, Rachel, what you're saying. Be that change in the world. Be the shift in the marketplace to do it differently, to do it professionally, and to do it authentically, to build an authentic relationship. But again, like Jim said, relationships are there, but you're still here to do business. So ask for that sale, right? Put them in your Rolodex, put them in your CRM system, whatever it is, and then make sure you're doing that follow-up, not waiting for the next show to show up, right, Rachel? Either way, you obviously did a good job because you got the client. So sometimes change is hard. That's the long and the short of it. And industry change, I think, is some of the hardest to change. Jim, you mentioned that one of your clients or one of your associations said that it takes a year for a change to work its way through a corporation. So if there's a top level executive decision that's made, it'll take an entire year for it to hit the ground, where a customer and an employee actually meet on that change. So industry is too slow. You have to be faster than the industry changes.
Yeah, Rod, that was the distribution network for alcohol, and I'm sure it's similar in other industries because they get so wrapped up in union red tape and chains of command and all that other stuff. So just to your point, right? I did want to reflect on something else that you talked about, and that was protecting your network. And there's a few people on this call tonight that made me bring this to mind or want to expand on a little bit. Is when you're looking at your business or the potential business you might do down the road, your network is your net worth, is what a lot of people or leaders would say. And it's worth protecting, to your point. I'm thinking about Wayne specifically. You brought up, if you're a pool man, Wayne has a list of clients, and Wayne, hopefully you're hearing this, but if you've got a list of clients and you're looking at transitioning into something else, and I know for a fact that Wayne dabbles in real estate. If Wayne wants to get completely out of the pool business, he can take his network with him, his ball of customers, into his next business, and not only reach out to them and say, hey, I've transitioned, but then he's got a snowball to start his new business. And, obviously if he's cleaning pools for people in his business, they've got enough money to have a home and a pool that they want clean. So pools are kind of a luxury item. They may have money to invest in real estate, right? So all of a sudden, by protecting his own network, you're able to build your future businesses and anything else that you do. Samantha and I have a friend up here in Montana. She's an influencer on social media. I just looked, she's got 415,000 followers. And she's been what, you call canceled, for her position on a lot of things. And she was concerned that her numbers were dropping or alternatively not growing. I said, well, do you have emails or database of these followers that you've built a business around? Because she has sponsors that pay her for her social media value. And she says, no, I don't have any emails. Well, what happens if social media goes down? All of a sudden her network and her net worth are gone, right? So we should always strive to build up a network and look at where that balance is and protect it, build it, foster it. I'm speaking from a position where I haven't done as good of a job as I could have done. At one point, I know I turned over about 12,000 email addresses, to market to, but in reality, because they're old, it's probably more like 6,000, right? And of the 6,000, maybe only a couple are actually active still. So we can all do better to protect our networks and think about the longevity of those things, and that is an asset for what you bring to the table and how you're going to grow your business. Sometimes, and I've coached clients on this, go to your local convention. Maybe it's peripheral in the business that you're in, but the idea is collect business cards, get email addresses, drop business cards, make connections, mass amounts of people in one day at a convention. You can cover a lot of ground as opposed to somebody you might meet at the bar. Right. So always look for ways that you can grow your network and reach out and do the hard work behind that, and you'll see the value in it. So I wanted to touch on that briefly. And by the way, if you guys have questions, now's a good time. So I'll give back to you, Rod.
Thanks, Jim. Well, I don't want to, if nobody's got any questions here, or if there aren't any questions, I do want to talk about that just a little bit more too, and building that pool of resource. And again, I'm glad that you put Lord in the chat box there again, that location, occupation, recreation, and dream, because the clients you have, if you don't already have that information on them, you should have notes for every one of those clients, who the principal players are and what they do in their time off. How many kids do they have? Do they have grandkids? Do they have pets? You need as much information in that database as possible. Just an email address isn't enough. You've got to have those points of connection. And keep in mind that if you're talking to that CEO, he maybe has, 5 brothers and sisters who are all married. So there's 10, right? And then their circle of friends and the people that they deal with, every person is an influencer. It's not just the social media influencers. Every person you have in your client base is an influencer. And when you start looking at it that way, and you can mine that data by having as much information on those people as you can, it's gonna 10x your business. I see, Jim, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks, Rod. I wanted to build on the whole Lord thing. It hit me earlier. I ran into something yesterday in social media. Somebody was talking about that there's research showing that if you express genuine intent in your initial interactions with people, that creates a dopamine surge in the other person. And from that point on, every follow-up interaction will revive that feeling, that dopamine hit that they experience with you, and put you in a different view, a different realm of what other people have. So thinking about your follow-up visits, if you don't express that genuine interaction in that first meeting with them, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage for all your follow-up interactions.
Absolutely, Jim. And that gets right back to, we talk about old school, you know, the Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people. It has to be authentic and genuine. So there are ways to do it genuinely. You should take a genuine interest in other people and find those points of connection. It's going to make a difference in your business. That's the long and the short of it. So thanks for that, Jim. It's kind of fun to see that science is actually proving out what we already know intuitively, right? Things are always going to come back around that way. All right. Thanks for the input. Anybody else have any questions, thoughts, comments? If not, we can wrap up early. I've got to get up at 3 a.m. tomorrow and catch a flight, so I don't mind. All right. We'll put a bow on this. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. If you're watching later, it's the Young Entrepreneurs Syndicate. Thanks again for your input.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks, everybody.